What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my official spring football power rankings for the Big Ten Conference for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Yesterday, I gave you my SEC football power rankings for the spring as well. If you have not seen that video, be sure to go back and check it out right here on my channel. And then we got the Big 12 coming up tomorrow, and then we'll have the ACC to close out these spring football power rankings for 2025 as well, coming up on Thursday. But we're doing the Big Ten today, so I'm going to try to run through these as quickly as possible. Obviously, there are 18 teams in this conference, and it's just really kind of hard to break down every single team and give them a statement. But I'm going to try the best I can to go through these really quickly. But we're going to do the same thing like from yesterday, start from the bottom and work our way to the top, and we'll talk about who's coming back and who they lose, maybe in the transfer portal or maybe the NFL. So let's go ahead and jump right into these spring football power rankings for the Big Ten Conference, and we'll start here at the bottom. So starting with number 18, we got the Purdue Boilermakers. Really nothing to get excited about if you're a Purdue fan, obviously. This team, I think, is going to be once again the worst team in the conference, and they have been for the last couple years. They have not been the same program ever since Jeff Brom left this program to go to Louisville. And yeah, that's kind of tough to see for Purdue because this usually was one of the more consistent teams in this conference. But you look at Barry Odom, a head coach that had a pretty decent head coaching resume. I mean, he's not one of the greatest coaches out there, but I mean, he's a guy that can definitely turn this program around, but it's just not going to be this year. You look at both sides of the football. I mean, offensively, they're going to lose Hudson Card at quarterback. Marcus Mobo, a pretty big loss there at the right tackle position, but I mean, everywhere else is just pretty, average. I don't think it's really terrible for them, but they are just going to have a lot of new players, and that's definitely going to be the thing about this Purdue team this year. Just a lot of new players and a lot of new inexperienced guys that have never played at this level before. So yeah, Purdue I don't think is going to be really good this year, so that's the reason why you're seeing them here at the way bottom at that last place position here in the power rankings at number 18. Moving on to number 17, we got Northwestern. This is a team that is coming off a pretty disappointing year last year. They were just 4-8. They had a pretty tough schedule in 2024, but usually this is also a more consistent team in the Big Ten. But ever since Pat Fitzgerald left, we thought after a pretty good first year with their new head coach, we thought this team would actually get back to where they used to be as a decent program in the Big Ten. But you look at both sides of the football offensively. I mean, they got Preston Stone, the transfer, coming in at quarterback. We'll see how good he's going to be for this team. I don't think he's going to be great for them, but I think he'll be pretty solid for them. He does have a ton of experience, but I don't think he's going to be really great for them. I mean, that offense, there's not really a ton of weaknesses there. I mean, this offense, I think, will be pretty solid for them, but it's the defense that I'm really concerned about here for the Wildcats. They don't really have a ton of depth on the defensive side of the football, and they lost quite a lot there from last year. So yeah, Northwestern, it's really going to come down to their defense in order to kind of win some big games this year. Not big games, but they can probably be competitive, at least for the first half. But yeah, Northwestern, if they can beat some of the bad teams in the Big Ten, then they probably can go to a bowl game. But yeah, that defense, a lot of depth concern there on that defensive side of the football here for the Wildcats for 2025. And that's the reason why you're seeing them here at number 17 for 2025 in these spring football power rankings. Number 16 is Maryland. This is another team that's trying to turn things around in 2025. They're also coming off a 4-8 year last year with a pretty tough schedule. This year, there's a lot of concerns for this Maryland team, especially on both sides of the football. I mean, you look at the offense, they're going to lose a couple of really good receivers there, so the wide receiver position is definitely a big concern there for Maryland. They also have some offensive line, concern. They don't really have a ton of depth there on the offensive line, and then same thing with the quarterback. I think they're going to have a pretty young quarterback as well, so the quarterback and offensive line, and then the wide receiver position, almost everything is a big concern for this Maryland team. I think the tight end position definitely is going to be the strength, but yeah, just a lot of concerns there for Maryland on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, it's almost the same story. Defensively, they're going to lose Jordan Phillips at defensive tackle, and then they lose a couple of really good players in the secondary. They'll lose Dante Trader and then Glendon Miller. Those two guys gone in the secondary, but I think they have a lot of concerns in the depth in that linebacker position. yeah, that linebacker position definitely is going to be a big concern in my opinion. And then you look at the secondary, also some concerns there with the depth chart as well. So yeah, Maryland might have a pretty good starting lineup, but their depth is definitely not going to be a factor in my opinion. So yeah, that's why you're kind of seeing Maryland here at the bottom of these power rankings as well. I mean, it's kind of like Northwestern. They don't have a ton of depth there, so that's why you're seeing Maryland here at number 16. And I wouldn't be shocked if Maryland had another disappointing year in 2025. Number 15 is UCLA. UCLA trying to, improve a little bit this year under Deshaun Foster as their second-year head coach. I mean, you look at this offense. Of course, Nico Amaliava is coming in at quarterback. I mean, we saw how good he was at Tennessee from last year, but was he really that good, or was it just, kind of a bit of a fluke here for him? I mean, I don't really know if he fit well into this system or not, but it's kind of, definitely maybe a big concern there if I'm Nico Amaliava to come here to UCLA on a different offensive kind of, system and everything. But I think he's going to be pretty good for them. I don't really think he's going to be great, but I think he'll be pretty good for them. So they got a pretty good quarterback, a former 5-star recruit in Nico Amaliava. The tight end position, though, is definitely a concern for UCLA. They lost their star tight end, there from last year. So yeah, they don't really have a ton of depth on that tight end position, but you look at this offensive line, it looks like it's going to be pretty good for them. The wide receiver position might be not really the best wide receiver group, but it looks like it's going to be pretty good as well. And then you look at defense. They lost their star defensive end gone, but, I mean, they don't really lose a whole lot on the defensive side of the football, but they do lose a couple of linebackers. So that linebacker position might be a big concern there for UCLA. So, yeah, the concerns I have here for the Bruins is definitely probably that tight end position. That's definitely a big weakness here for this UCLA team, who's going to be able to step up at that offensive, or actually at that tight end position. And then you look at the defense. I mean, obviously the linebacker position is definitely my main concern here for the Bruins. They're going to have to rely on a couple of young pieces there at linebacker. But yeah, UCLA, we'll see if they can improve this year under the second-year head coach Deshaun Foster, and we'll see if Nico Amaliava can provide a spark here for this UCLA team in 2025 as well. Moving on to number 14, we got Wisconsin. Wisconsin definitely has not been really good in the last couple years under Luke Fickell. First year, obviously, 7-6, and then second year last year, 5-7. Yeah, they just have been so inconsistent, and that's definitely what I have some concerns here for Wisconsin. It's definitely the inconsistency of this football team, and then you look at the offensive side of the football, they're going to lose quite a bit there from last year. Ches Mazzoli is gone at running back. That's a pretty big loss there for Wisconsin, but they do lose like a couple of really good offensive linemen. They lose Joe Huber and then Jack Nelson. They lose Joe Huber at right guard and then Jack Nelson at left tackle. They also lose Bryson Green at wide receiver. But I have a lot of concerns about this offensive line for Wisconsin. They don't have a ton of depth there either. So, yeah, depth is definitely a big concern here for this conference in the Big Ten. There's just not a ton of depth for some of these teams in the Big Ten, especially for Wisconsin. And then you look at the defensive side of the football for Wisconsin. The linebacker position might be a big concern. They lost Jake Chaney, Jaheim Thomas, and then also John Poss. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. But yeah, they lost 3 guys there at linebacker, and then they lost Hunter Wollier at safety. So I think this secondary might be a little bit of a weakness for Wisconsin on the defensive side of the football. I think the defensive line is actually going to be pretty solid, but that's really about it. The offensive line definitely is a big concern on offense. The quarterback position, kind of tough to figure out as well. Tyler Van Dyke is gone anyway, so yeah, Wisconsin, definitely some concerns on both sides of the football, in my opinion, and that's why you're kind of seeing them here at number 14. I just don't know if they're going to get it done this year, and I think Luke Fickell is definitely not the right guy if they do have a pretty disappointing year in 2025 again. Number 13 is Michigan State. This is a team that I kind of expect to improve a little bit this year. I mean, I do like the pieces they have coming back on both sides of the football, especially on the offense. Nate Carter is gone at quarterback, but they got Aiden Chills taking over at quarterback. I think he's going to be pretty solid for them, but not really great for them, if that really does make sense. But they didn't really lose a whole lot on both sides of the football. I mean, they do have some key pieces coming back, but it's just really the lack of talent on this team. It's really not there for them just yet, but if they can win some big games this year, maybe against the lesser Big Ten opponents, then yeah, this Michigan State team probably has a chance to go to a bowl game this year. But yeah, Michigan State, especially on offense, I think they'll be pretty decent there. And I think this defense has got a chance to be also pretty solid as well. So yeah, Michigan State pretty high on these power rankings, but not enough to be in the top 10, obviously, because of the lesser talented roster. But they're here at number 13 in these spring football power rankings. Moving on to number 12, we got Washington. Washington will enter their second year under Jedd Fisch. I kind of expect a lot of improvement here for the Huskies in 2025. I mean, obviously, Will Rogers will be gone at quarterback, but they have a young quarterback in Devin Williams. We'll see how good he's going to be for this team. He probably won't be great for them, but he probably will be a little bit solid for them. Maybe also kind of average, but you look at the offensive line, it's a little bit of a concern here for Washington. They don't have a ton of depth on that offensive line, so that's definitely a big concern that I have here for Washington on the offensive side of the football. But defensively, I think this defense is actually going to be a little bit better compared to last year. The defensive line looks pretty good. The secondary also looks pretty good. So yeah, everything about the defense looks like it's going to be pretty solid, and it could be a little bit better in 2025. But again, the offensive line is definitely really the only weakness I see here for Washington coming up for this season in 2025. So that's definitely kind of the reason why they still fall out of the top 10, and also because of the lesser talent and everything. So yeah, Washington here at number 12. Moving on to number 11, that's Rutgers. The Scarlet Knights, in the last 2 years, they've been pretty good, with their head coach. They made it to a bowl game in the last couple years. But really, what's keeping them out of the top 10 here in these power rankings is basically the loss at running back. They lose Kyle Magani, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. He has gone at the running back position, a very talented running back, one of the top running backs in the Big Ten and definitely in the country from last year. So yeah, that's kind of keeping Rutgers here out of the top 10 because of that loss at running back. But you look at this offensive line, they lose, Holland Pierce. That's really a big loss there at that left tackle. They got C.J. Campbell, though, a transfer coming in at running back, so that probably should help them out a little bit. I mean, they added some additions in the transfer portal on both sides of the football, and you look at this Rutgers offense. I mean, this is a team that will still run the football pretty well, in my opinion. I mean, they do have a tough schedule in the Big Ten. That's also kind of what's keeping them out of the top 10 is because of that schedule coming up for 2025. But yeah, Rutgers definitely should be a team that's able to run the football. I think this offensive line is going to be pretty solid for them, and then definitely the offense overall should be pretty decent. But you look at this defense, they lost quite a bit there from last year, but, I don't really have any concerns about the defense for Rutgers either. It might be a little bit of a step back here for them, but I think they're going to be pretty solid nonetheless. And then you look at Robert Longerbeam, gone at cornerback, but that's really the only big loss there on the defensive side of the football. So yeah, Rutgers definitely outside the top 10 because of that loss at running back. But I think this team will still be pretty solid, and I think they should be pretty decent of a team. And this is also a team that's kind of been consistent now for the last couple of years in the Big Ten. Speaking of consistent, we go to number 10 now, and that's Minnesota. This is one of the more consistent programs in the Big Ten. Obviously, you look at the offensive side of the football. Max Busmar gone at quarterback, Tyler Cooper gone at left guard, and then Daniel Jackson, a very talented wide receiver, gone at wide receiver as well. So yeah, they lose quite a bit there at the offensive side of the football, but Minnesota definitely reloads. They always have decent playmakers on their roster, so I'm not really concerned about the offensive side of the football. This is a team that will run the football pretty consistently, just like Rutgers will, and then also they'll develop the passing game a little bit. They may not have like a really talented quarterback this year, but still, this is a Minnesota team that's definitely going to want to run the football. Defensively, not really any big losses there on the defensive side of the football. I mean, they do have some defensive line concerns at the depth chart, and then also the linebacker position could be a little bit of a concern as well. They do lose Ja Joyner. They also lose Cody Lindenberg and then Justin Wally at corner, and then also they have a little depth concerns on the defense and the safety position. So yeah, they don't really have that talented defense, but this is a well-coached team. You kind of expect them to make it to a bowl game every year, and that's exactly what I think Minnesota is still going to do, is make it to a bowl game. This should be a team that can get up to like 6, 7, 8 wins, somewhere in that particular win range. But yeah, Minnesota, their defense does kind of concern me a little bit. I think they'll definitely reload there, and they should still overall be a really decent team for 2025. Moving on to number 9, we got USC. USC obviously coming off a pretty average type season last year. You look at this offense. I think this offense is going to be pretty explosive. Yes, they lose Miller Moss at quarterback. I mean, he transferred away, but they lose their star center, but that's about it on the offensive line. This offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty good for USC. Woody Marks is gone at running back, but they have plenty of depth on that running back position. Again, this offense, I think, is going to be pretty explosive. I mean, obviously with Lincoln Riley calling plays and everything, this offense should be able to score some points, and I think they'll definitely do that this year. I mean, obviously they had a tough schedule. They played some really good defenses last year, and speaking of defense, that is definitely a concern here for USC. They definitely have some concerns on the defensive end position. That's definitely kind of concerning there for USC, especially at that defensive end position. Not a ton of depth there. You look at Jalen Smith, he's gone at corner. I mean, not really a lot of big losses on USC's defense, but still, this is a team that definitely doesn't have like a ton of depth on the defensive side of the football. So I think in order for USC to become like a pretty big dark horse contender in the Big Ten, their defense is probably going to have to step up in 2025. But I do like their offense. I think the offense can keep them in some games, but if their defense can just make some stops, then yeah, USC definitely could be a dark horse team and possibly a top 25 team this year in 2025 as well. But they are at number 9 here on these power rankings because of the defensive question marks. Moving on to number 8, we got Iowa. This is a team that has definitely a lot of concerns. I do like their starting lineup and everything, but you look at the depth on this roster, there is not a ton of depth at all, especially on both sides of the football. I mean, offensively, they do have a pretty good starting lineup there, but defensively, they don't really have quite a lot of, depth there either. I mean, they do have a pretty talented defense. We know they're going to be really good on defense, but we know that offense has not been really the best in the last couple years. I should say probably 3 years. They lose Caleb Johnson at running back. I mean, that's definitely a big loss. And then they lose Luke Latchley at tight end. Yeah, there's a lot of depth concerns there on the offensive side of the football, and especially at that tight end position as well. Defensively, they're going to lose Jay Higgins at linebacker and then Jamari Harris. I mean, not really a lot of losses on the defensive side of the football. But again, it's really the depth that I'm concerned about here for the Hawkeyes. I mean, the reason why they're still in the top 10 and everything is because they're a talented team, and they should have a very talented starting lineup. But you look at the depth on this team, that's what's really keeping them out of the top 5 and everything. And I just don't think this Iowa team is going to become a contender in the Big Ten because of the depth chart, and they just don't have a ton of depth there. So yeah, that's definitely a concern there for the Hawkeyes for 2025. I do like their starting lineup. Again, don't get me wrong, I do like their starting lineup, but it's just not there, especially on the depth chart. I mean, they don't really have a ton of proven guys at quarterback either. So yeah, I would definitely a lot of concerns heading into 2025 with the depth chart. Moving on to number 7, we got Nebraska. This is another team that I do expect to, contend in the Big Ten this year. I think the teams that you're going to see here from like 1 through 7 are probably your dark horse teams, or maybe like 6 through, maybe like 5 through 7. Let's put it that way. But yeah, you look at this Nebraska team. Dylan Raiola is back at quarterback. We saw how good he was as a true freshman. I mean, this team does have talent. Don't get me wrong. Nebraska does have a lot of talent. I mean, there's not really a lot of concerns that I'm concerned about for Nebraska. But you look at the losses. Ramir Johnson gone at running back. That's a pretty big loss there. They lost Ben Scott at center, and then they also lost, they lost their star left tackle as well. So yeah, that's kind of a couple of big losses on the offensive line, but I think this offensive line will be pretty decent for them. They lost Isaiah Neyor and then Jamal Banks at wide receiver. So yeah, those probably will be the two weaknesses there for Nebraska, is probably the wide receiver position. I think this team will definitely reload in the transfer portal. I mean, Matt Rule definitely knows how to get it done on the transfer portal spot. Defensively, you look at this team. Ty Robinson gone at defensive end. MJ Sherman gone at defensive end. So that might be a concern there. The defensive line could be a little bit of a concern. I think this defensive line will definitely reload. And then obviously at linebacker, they're going to lose John Bullock and then Isaac Gifford at full safety. And then Tom Hill at corner. I mean, they don't really have a ton of depth there at the full safety position, but this is a Nebraska team I think is definitely a dark horse team, and that's why you're probably seeing them here at number 7. And also Dylan Raiola, a proven guy at quarterback. We saw how good he can be last year, and that's also kind of the reason why Nebraska is a little bit high in these power rankings for 2025. Number 6 is Indiana, a team that's going to be probably taking a little bit of a step back this year, but this team does reload in the transfer portal. You look at both sides of the football. They're loaded in the transfer portal. They're loaded at wide receiver, obviously. But you look at the quarterback position. Curtis Work is gone at quarterback, but they got a transfer quarterback in Fernando Mendoza coming in from Cal. We saw how good he was a little bit against Auburn last year, but that was in week 2. So yeah, Cal definitely was a solid team, but they weren't really, like decent on the offensive side of the football, if that makes sense. I think he'll fit well into this system. I think he's going to do a pretty decent job for them, for this Indiana team at quarterback. You look at the offensive line, that's kind of a big concern there for Indiana, on my opinion. The offensive line, they don't really have a ton of depth there just yet, but if they continue to add some transfers in there, then definitely Indiana's going to probably, definitely not be a concern whatsoever on the offensive line. I think this offense, though, will still be pretty good like it was from last year. And I think Curtis Work, actually not Curtis Work, the head coach for Indiana has done a really nice job, and he knows how to win football games. So, yeah, Indiana definitely is a dark horse team, in my opinion, in the Big Ten this year, and they made it to the college football playoff last season. Defensively, they lose C.J. West and Jalen Walker. They lose, C.J. West at defensive tackle and then Jalen Walker at linebacker. Now, the defensive line does kind of concern me a little bit. They don't have a ton of depth there on that defensive line, but still, I think Indiana should be able to develop in the transfer portal. And then obviously they don't have a ton of depth at the full safety and cornerback positions either. So yeah, probably some major concerns on the defensive side of the football for Indiana. That's kind of what's keeping them here outside the top 5. But still, I think this team definitely is still going to be a dark horse team in the Big Ten Conference for 2025. And they'll definitely be a top 20 team. But maybe they won't be quite as good as they were from last year, because this is a team that went to the playoff. But still, this is a team that can win football games, and I do believe in the head coach that they have already. So yeah, Indiana here at number 6. Moving on to the top 5 now. At number 5, we got Illinois. A team that has a lot of experience coming back, obviously. Luke Allmeyer back at quarterback. I mean, that's a huge return there for this Illinois team. I mean, offensively, they don't really have any, concerns whatsoever. Maybe except the offensive line. They do have a little bit of a depth concerns there, but either way, I think the depth on this team is going to be just fine. And then Pat Bryant gone at wide receiver. That could be a big loss there for Illinois, but they're absolutely loaded at the rest of the receiving position. So I think this offense is going to be really good this year for Illinois. Defensively, no concerns there at all. I think this defense is actually going to be pretty decent this year. It's not going to be a really talented defense, but this is a veteran experienced Illinois team. This Illinois team coming off a 10-win season last year, but you never know. Illinois could probably drop off again. It seems like it's kind of hard to tell how good Illinois is going to be, because when we give them that hype, for this year, they turn out to be bad, but then they go into next year. We think they're going to be bad, and then obviously Illinois ends up being really good. So yeah, Illinois, I really don't have any concerns at all, especially, on both sides of the football. I mean, again, a lot of experience, and you got Luke Allmeyer, a really good quarterback coming back this year for Illinois. So that's how they ended up here in the top 5, is because of the experience. Moving on to number 4, we got the Michigan Wolverines. This is a Michigan team that I do expect to get back to their old ways. I mean, they're obviously still going to be a team that's going to be running the football, but you look at Bryce Underwood, the true freshman quarterback. I mean, it's all really about him. I watched him in the spring game a little bit. He looked really good out there. So, yeah, I think he's definitely going to be the future of this program. He's a very talented quarterback, a 5-star recruit. You look at the offense, though. Donovan Edwards has gone at running back. I mean, that doesn't really concern me whatsoever. They got plenty of depth at that running back position. But you look at Chris Lovin at tight end. That's a huge loss there at the tight end position. But they also got plenty of depth at that tight end position. And then the offensive line, I think it's going to be pretty strong for them. I mean, they do lose a couple of really good linemen on that offensive line, but I think this offense will definitely be really good. The receiving position is about decent, but it's not really great, to be honest. It's just about really average and also decent for them. But you look at this defense, they lose quite a bit from last year, especially on the defensive line. But I think this defensive line has enough talent to where they can still be a team that can stop the run pretty well. The secondary, they do have a little depth concerns at the safety position, but other than that, Michigan definitely is going to get back to their old ways, in my opinion. I mean, they'll still be a team that can run the football, but if Bryce Underwood can develop the passing game for Michigan, then yeah, this Michigan team definitely becomes a top contender in the Big Ten this year. I mean, as of right now, I'd say they're like a dark horse team because I don't really want to go too far with Michigan just yet. But after, beating Ohio State last year, then yeah, that kind of tells me that Michigan is back to their old ways for 2025. And yeah, the talent is there for them to be like a top 25 team and definitely be like a top contender in the Big Ten. And that's the reason why you're seeing them here at number 4 in the spring football power rankings. Moving on to number 3, we got the Oregon Ducks. This Oregon team won't be as good as they were from last year because they lose Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, but Dante Moore is a guy that, is a former 5-star recruit. I really don't see any concerns for him. I think he's definitely going to fit into the system pretty well for Oregon. You look at the offense, though. Again, a lot of losses there on the offensive side of the football, but they definitely should be able to reload with some talent. They got some talent coming in the transfer portal. They signed a really good recruiting class as well. Again, no really big weaknesses for Oregon on both sides of the football. I mean, it's going to be a different team, but it's still going to be a very talented team. I mean, Dan Lanning knows how to get it done in the recruiting and definitely in the transfer portal. Again, Dante Moore, it's really about him in this offense, and then definitely wide receiver position, Tez Johnson, a big loss there at receiver, but either way, I think this Oregon team will still be really talented. Again, it's just not going to be the same Oregon team that we saw from last year that went undefeated, and it wouldn't really surprise me if Oregon took a little bit of a step back this year for 2025, but I still think they'll be really talented enough, so that's why you're seeing them here at number 3, but also at number 3 is because of the losses from last year. Moving on to number 2, we got Penn State. A lot of hype for this team in 2025, of course, with all the experience they have coming back. And they absolutely, got some really good couple of receivers in the transfer portal. But it all starts with a quarterback. Drew Aller is back at quarterback. I mean, obviously, that's a big return there. They do return their top running backs from last year. They got, Nicholas Singleton coming back, and then Kamar Allen also back at running back position. That is one of the best 1-2 punches at running back in the country, and then also definitely the 1-2 punch in the Big Ten as well. Wide receiver position, like I talked about it, they add in Kyron Hudson and then Devontae Ross, 2 really good wide receivers there in the transfer portal. Tyler Warner has gone at tight end, but I'm not really concerned about the tight end position at all. The tight end looks like it's going to be pretty loaded as well. The offensive line looks really strong defensively. They're going to lose, of course, pretty good defensive players. Abdul Carter is one of them at defensive end. I think this defensive line actually will be pretty strong. Kobe King has gone at linebacker. The secondary might be a little bit of concern there. Jalen Reed and Kevin Winston Jr. gone at safety, but this is a Penn State team that's going to be very talented nonetheless. I mean, can they challenge Ohio State in the Big Ten, of course? I mean, that's definitely going to be a big game there for them. And they play that one on the road. They also got Oregon. It's really going to be about those 2 games. If they can win at least one of them, or if they win both of them, that's definitely going to surprise me a lot. But if they can win at least one of them, then that wouldn't probably shock me whatsoever. But yeah, Penn State, a lot of experience for this team, a team that can absolutely win a national championship. And I think this is definitely a preseason top 5 team in my opinion, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won it all in the Big Ten this year because of all the experience they have coming back. But we go to number 1 now, and that's the Buckeyes of Ohio State. No surprise here at number 1. Obviously, just like Oregon, they won't be as good as they probably were, from last year, but this is still going to be a talented team. It's really about the quarterback position, in my opinion, my biggest concern here for the Buckeyes. I mean, it's really all about Julian Sayin. Is he going to be really able to be good for this Ohio State team? I really don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because I haven't really seen the kid play a lot of football, but you obviously got Jeremiah Smith back at wide receiver, and then you also got Tate coming back at receiver as well. I think that's probably going to be the strength of this Ohio State offense. It's probably the wide receiver position. The defense, maybe the defense won't be as good as it was from last year because I think it's going to be taking some time. It's probably going to take like 4 games for these new Ohio State players to develop. But yeah, I'm not really concerned about Ohio State. I mean, they lost a lot of talent from last year, but still, this team should overall be pretty good in 2025. And I think they're, as of right now, the favorite in the Big Ten. I mean, there's no question about it. It's kind of hard to go against Ohio State, but I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State does emerge ahead of Ohio State a little bit. But Again, it's really all about Julian Sayin at quarterback. Is he going to be pretty good enough for this Ohio State team? Time will tell. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback. That's pretty much my prediction here for the Buckeyes is going to be probably Julian Sayin. But like I said, the wide receiver position is definitely going to be the strength of this offense for the Buckeyes for 2025. So that is my spring football power rankings here officially for the Big Ten Conference for 2025 as well. Do you guys agree or disagree with these power rankings? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.